Well, India has 4 seasons and I am sure most of you are already aware of them. They are the cold season, the hot season, the advancing monsoon season and the retreating monsoon season. The cold season is experienced in India from December to February, whereas the hot season is from March to May, and the advancing monsoon starts from June and continues till September, and the retreating monsoon is from October and November. Well, these were the months of the seasons in India. But let's talk about the seasons in detail, and I shall pick up the cold weather or the cold season in India. The cold season is experienced in India from December to February, and here in this season we generally experience that the days become short and are warm, but the nights are long and cold. Generally, the sky is clear and the light winds keep blowing. Well, the westerly disturbances and the cyclonic winds keep striking the northwestern part of India during the winter season. And we also see that the northeast trade winds blow here, which are the from land to sea and are called as the offshore winds. Well, a very important and interesting feature of the cold season in India is what we call as the Mahavat. This is the winter rainfall which occurs and is very useful and helpful in the Rabi crops. So, once again if I revise it, I would just say December to February this continues and the days become short and warm and the nights are cold and long. There's clear sky, the light winds keep blowing, then the western disturbances and the cyclonic winds keep striking at the northwestern part of India, and we also see that the offshore winds keep blowing and the Mahavat or the winter rainfall as we call becomes very important for the Rabi crops. In contrast is the other climate or the other season that we have in India, and that is the hot weather. When I talk of the hot weather, this is experienced by the Indians from March to May, and here the days become very hot and long, whereas the nights are warm and short. Actually, the contrast or the difference that we experience of the winter season. Here we see that hot and dry winds keep blowing and dust storms become very common. Well, Loo is experienced during this season in the northern plain, and you already know the meaning of the word Loo. I told you about it in the new terms. The winds blow from sea to land and are generally moisture laden. Then one feature of this particular season that I would like to talk about are the localized thunderstorms. And these localized thunderstorms do give some relief, but not the much required one. And in various regions they are given different names. In West Bengal they are called as Kal Baisakhi because they occur in the month of Baisakh. So, if you just want to remember both the seasons, remember their contrast to each other, whether it is the months or the difference in the night and the days that we have, or the kind of winds which blow, or what is experienced by the people, and the two characteristic feature that I talked about, especially of the winter and the summer season, whereas in winter season I spoke about the winter rainfall that they have, and I spoke about the localized thunderstorm. So I am sure now you know the basic and the exact difference between the cold weather and the hot weather. And best it would be for you all to just draw a line in between your copy, write hot season and the cold season, and just continue from the month to the days and the nights and the kind of winds which blow, and then continuing from it we must talk about the important features, and that is how you will always remember both the seasons. You already know that there are 4 seasons: the cold, hot, advancing monsoon and the retreating monsoon. And I have already explained it to you about the cold season and the hot season. Let me talk about the 3rd season, which is the advancing monsoon season. As the word suggests, advancing monsoon, that is the coming of the monsoon, when actually it starts raining and pouring. These are the months of the early June that we experience, when the low pressure condition actually does what? Over the northern plain intensify, and we see that the strong winds blow during this time, and the average velocity of these winds is almost 30 kilometers per hour. Then we see that the maximum rainfall which is experienced during the advancing monsoon is of the northeastern part of India, and Mysinram, which is in fact a place in the Khasi hills which experiences the maximum rainfall in the world. And we see that the wet and dry spells continue during these months. Wet and dry spells, that is, it might rain for days together, that is the wet spell, and it might not rain at all for days, that is the dry spell. Such is the trait of the advancing monsoon that we experience in India. Well, when it is the wet spell, then what happens is floods in India, because it keeps on raining and raining, bringing floods. And the vagaries of monsoon, that is the uncertainties of the monsoon, is experienced in India every year. There are heavy floods and droughts on the other side. That is, some parts of India might be heavily flooded, and some parts of India might experience drought during the advancing monsoon season, or it could be that a particular monsoon season might be a season of heavy floods or of droughts. Now, because of these vagaries or the uncertainties which continue in this particular season, it is the farmers who actually get disturbed, because the farming schedules of the farmers do get disturbed because of the vagaries of the monsoon. So remember, this is the onset of the monsoon, the coming of the monsoon that we talk about. And next that I would like to talk about is the 4th kind of season experienced in India, which is termed as the retreating monsoon. Retreating means the one which is going back. And as I said, the months are October and November. And this period is the time when the apparent movement of the sun is towards the south. So the low pressure trough becomes weak. And this period is also called as the period of transition. And I told you the meaning of the period of transition, that is in between 2 seasons. And it is from hot rainy season to dry winters. We are moving forward towards that season. So, the retreating monsoon is also termed as the period of transition. The clear sky and the rise in temperature is actually a trait of the retreating monsoon. The climate seems very humid and oppressive, and when it is very hot, very oppressive, people are feeling restless and it's not very good weather condition. That's the time that we term it as October heat. And the cyclonic disturbances originate at this time over the Andaman Sea. And we see that there is heavy rainfall in the three deltas, that is the Krishna, Godavari and Kaveri, during the time of retreating monsoon. Well, we also see that this period sees the cyclones in the Orissa, West Bengal in India and outside in Bangladesh. And here we see that the Coromandel coast receives rainfall during the retreating monsoon due to the depression and the cyclones experienced. So, remember, 4 seasons, as the word itself will suggest, cold means cold climate, hot means hot climate, and the next one that we have, the advancing monsoon, means the onset, the coming of the monsoon. Retreating, as the word suggests, is the going of the monsoon. But remember, the retreating monsoon is actually a period of transition, the coming of the cold climate that we are to experience in the following month. I talk about the remaining chapter in the next clipping.